and welcome to session 9 of Sigma training. My name's Kim Blake and this session is on queries. Just going to show you one slide with the agenda and then I'll move into the live demonstration. So in this session we're going to have a look at viewing queries and then adding queries, updating them and resolving them. And I'll also show you the relevant help pages. So let me open up the live system. And as usual, I've started on the tree configuration, but I'm going to move to invoice validation, portfolios, and manage queries. So this is where we'll see all of the outstanding queries within the database. And as you see, it will default to show all active queries. That can be changed, but that's the default. Now there are 4 different types of query, and in the category here you've got invoice or account query, or meter or site query. Got the button here to add a new query, which we'll have a look at in a moment, but let me just show you the grid. So as with most of the screens, you can move the columns around, you can change the widths, you can add in additional columns. Once you've made the screen to look how you want it, you can then save that view. And if you set it as your default, when you log in, this is how you'll see it. Otherwise, it will return to the default. Now in the grid, we have the next action date, which you set yourself, the item the query is linked to, the category, the description, query reason, the status, and many other columns. So with the reason, each query has a reason or more than one reason. If there's more than one, we see the option here to click on the multiple. With the description, that's a hyperlink, so I can just click on it and that will open up the query for me. Alternatively, I can right-click on a query, and the other right-click options are to add a new query, to edit an existing or update, delete, resolve, or cancel. So edit is the same as me clicking on the hyperlink, and that will open up the query. So if I wanted to add a new query, if I click on add, and there are 4 tabs of data here. So the general is where we start. So it knows it's me that's creating the query, but I can change that. We've got the query status as new, and then the other options that are available. The query category, so is it on the invoice, the account, the meter, or the site? The date of my next action, and then a description. So if I just type account start date is after first invoice date. The reason is mandatory, and because I've chosen account here, if I add, the queries here will be in relation to what I've chosen. So it will be in relation to an account query. So it could be that this is because the account is an incorrect start date. If there's any estimated savings, that can be added in. And then you can have more than one query if you want to. Linking the object is the next tab. So I need to say what account it is that this query is for. So if I add, I can then search for the account, tick it, and add. The next 2 tabs won't show anything at the moment. So the events are where I can add new notes. So just keeping a track of what I'm doing to resolve this query. And the status will be when I update the status on the main page. So with that information, I can then save. Prior to that, if you've got any attachments, you can add those in. So that saved the query into the list for me. And then I can go in and edit it or add in any new notes, etc. So as I said, any type of query category can be added from here. With invoices, you can actually do that from either the batch import or the manage invoices. So I'll start on manage invoices. And if I right click on an invoice, you have the option here to add a new query. When I do that, it pops up and I can add the details in. Alternatively, if I was looking at the invoice itself, so if I right click and edit, or if I start with view invoice details, I'm seeing the invoice and I've got the option here to manage queries. So manage queries will show me any existing queries. And again, I've got the add button here. Alternatively, I can edit an invoice. And again, I've got the manage queries here. That will show me existing queries and I can add a new one. Or if I was actually adding this invoice, I can go through the screens, I can update the invoice, the consumption, the charges, and then when I save and validate, I have the option then to add a query. So once this page loads, I'd be able to then raise a new query. So this would show me the validators, what it's failed on, and if I needed to, I could raise a new query there. So just cancel from there. So I've come back to the queries page here. I'm going to move back to manage invoices and just go back over those options. So whether or not I'm editing the invoice or viewing the invoice details or add a new query, any of those ways I can add a new query for the account, sorry, for the invoice. Alternatively, if you are adding an EDI file, if I go to manage batch imports, click on the batch, and if I right click on the invoice, I've got add new query there. Similarly, if I click on the invoice number, I've got the option to manage the queries. So any of those ways will allow you to view the queries or manage them or add a new one. If I come back to all of my queries, so manage queries, updating them can be done from those other pages or directly from here. So if I click on the description, I can add in additional reasons. I can add in additional attachments. I can put some events in. So if I've got another note to put in, that can be put in from here. And if I want to change the status, I can change the status and that will update the status audit. And then I would just save that. So you can either resolve a reason or you can resolve the whole query. So if I just click back into one of these queries, now this is telling me my next action date has passed. So I can amend that next action date if I want to. And it might be that we've got more than one query or reason here, and I can just update that one reason. But to resolve it, if I click on the pencil, and if there's any savings, I can add the savings. Sorry, that's the estimated savings. I can resolve it here and add any actual savings and save. and that resolves that line. Now, because there is only one, that will resolve the whole query for me. So if I save, that will then have resolved that query. If there's more than one reason, you can resolve one of the reasons and keep the query open. So as a recap, I'm on invoice validation and manage queries. That's where you'll be able to work all of the queries and see all of them. If you've resolved any, you can change the option here to resolve and then apply. And that will show you any that have been resolved. The default, though, is to show all active. So you can work through any of the queries from here just by clicking on the description. So you can add additional notes, you can add attachments, you can resolve one or more of the reasons at the bottom here. By resolving both the reasons, that will then resolve and close that query. Alternatively, if you're looking at the invoices, if I come down to manage invoices, I can right-click on an invoice and add a new query, or I can edit, or I can view the invoice details. And with any of those, it will take you to the screen, and you've got the option here to manage the queries. Then you have the manage batch imports if you're dealing with an EDI file. If I open up one of the files and right-click, we've got add new query. Or if you're viewing the invoice, again, you've got the option here to manage the queries. So those all apply to just invoicing queries, but all queries, as I said, are under the manage queries. With regards to the help file, if I just search for query, we can see here various different options. So from creating to managing to updating. Thank you for listening. I'll speak to you soon.